Damn in what sense? Well, both, to be honest. Damn as in, wow, this bike is good, and damn as in, oh no, my wallet's in for a mauling. Yes, I know it costs 30,000 euros, but my goodness, this Ducati is spectacularly good. It's the first bike I've ridden since I got my Tiger 900 just over a year ago that's actually tempting me to change. I won't because I can't possibly afford one, but I still can't help thinking about it. See, ever since my friend Adrian promised me a ride on his brand new 2025 Multistrada V4S a couple of weeks ago, I've been trying to convince myself that there was no way it could possibly be 75% better than my Triumph. 75% because that's more or less how much more it cost. 30,000 euros as opposed to the 17,000 that I spent on my bike. But then I went and rode it, didn't I? Big mistake. So in this video I'll review the bike as normal, engine performance, ride comfort, handling, braking, tech, etc. before concluding with the pros and cons and the morality of spending 30,000 euros on a bike, and then looking at some of the questions that you sent in. One final thing, in anticipation of the comments, I know many languages and regional accents pronounce it Ducati, 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 but I'm British and so I say Ducati, so I'm afraid you'll just have to live with it, at least for the duration of this video. The 2025 Multistrada gets refinements to enhance comfort, performance and safety without impacting the tried and trusted core formula. The 1158cc Gran Turismo V4 still produces 170 horsepower and 124 Nm of torque, but now meets Euro 5 Plus regulations without losing output. Key updates to this model include a new wet riding mode for the rain, an improved enduro mode capped at 110 horsepower, and extended rear cylinder deactivation that now functions at low speeds, reducing both fuel and engine heat. Styling sees subtle changes, a sharper beak and revised headlight trim, and the new Ducati Vehicle Observer DVO system integrates the bike's numerous sensors and rider aids into a smarter, faster reacting suite. Intelligent motorcycles, a solution to a problem nobody had. Anyway, this V4S is all about engine performance, so let's start with that. And this is the first part of the damn expletive in the thumbnail, no point beating about the bush here, and as I hinted at in the intro, the Multistrada V4S is the most exhilarating bike I've ridden since the Triumph Speed Triple a couple of years ago. 170 horsepower, so the same as the S1000XR that I tested a few weeks ago, but this feels quite different. Unlike the slightly thin feeling inline 4 of the BMW, this V4 is beefy and delivers thrilling acceleration. It's only 10 Nm more at roughly the same 9,000 RPM, yet it feels way stronger than the XR. Yet it manages to be docile and smooth at low speeds, again unlike the BMW, which always felt to me like a hardcore track bike straining at the leash. The Multistrada's up-down quickshifter is slick, though it has to be said not quite as buttery smooth as the one on the S1000. Interestingly, Adrian, the owner of this V4S, also has a new BMW R1300 GS in the UK. Obvious question, which one is better, or at least which one does he prefer? Well, he reckons the GS is the faster of the two, simply because of the torque that's available pretty much constantly, but the Multistrada is the more engaging to ride, and I have to agree. The GS offers more grunt than you could possibly need, but it doesn't bring a smile to my face like this V4 does. The Ducati has soul, whereas the BMW just has purpose. There's also this rear cylinder deactivation thing that now engages more often during low-speed maneuvers, for example, to reduce fuel consumption and heat. Earlier models were notorious for cooking legs in traffic. This change directly addresses that, and it does seem to have been successful. It was warm rather than hot, say 27 degrees C, 80 Fahrenheit when we filmed this, and I must confess that I forgot to think about the engine heat thing, which I suppose is another way of saying that I didn't notice my legs being cooked. I asked Adrian, who with his son has bought 15 new Ducatis over the years, including a 2021 and a 2022 Multistrada, and he said that so far this season, bearing in mind we have still to hit the mega temperatures of July and August, the heat issue does seem a lot better on this 2025. How about ride comfort and suspension? Well, the first thing I noticed when swinging my leg over was that I could swing my leg over without having to cheat and stand on the left-hand foot peg, something that I can't do on my Tiger. Multistrada is definitely a relatively compact sports tourer rather than an oversized adventure bike. It feels more compact, more sporty than, say, my Tiger 900, and overall size is more similar to the Tiger Sport 800 I tried a couple of months ago. The seat height remains adjustable, 840 or 860mm, with optional low-high versions. Adrian went with this high seat option. He's only 6 foot or 183 centimeters tall, so I was a bit surprised when he told me, but when I got on, I found that I could easily flat foot both feet. I'm 6'2", 1m87 m. So if you are above, say, 5'10", it might be worth exploring the high seat option for a bit more leg room. An important proviso to that, however, everything I've just said, swinging my leg over, compact bike, high seat, etc., applies to this V4S, as it gets the auto lowering feature as standard, dropping the rear by up to 30mm, I think, as you come to a stop. The standard V4, which I haven't ridden, doesn't have the feature, so be careful. Anyway, the Skyhook semi-active suspension, which is standard on this V4S, is designed to continuously adapt to road conditions, and it does. It now includes a bump detection system that instantly softens the shock over sharp impacts, and I confirm that it does work very well. The suspension absorbs potholes almost imperceptibly, even in the firmer sport mode. Like most Olin setups I've tried, it offers an almost impossibly perfect compromise of soft comfort and firm handling. It's magic. I really don't understand how it's done. We weren't able to test two upriding, but the luggage mounts have been shifted slightly rearward to increase space for the pillion, and combined with the excellent suspension that you can easily adjust for preload via the dash, I would imagine the Multistrada is a very comfortable option for two-up travel. One final comment on the seat. It did initially feel very firm, especially after my sofa-like Tiger. However, I didn't get any aches or pains during the test ride, and Adrian has just returned from a 3,000 kilometer tour and said the same. How about handling and braking? Oh, it's so nice to have a 19-inch front wheel again. Now, it's not so much the rolling diameter of the 21-inch on my Tiger that I don't like, as the super skinny tyres that we're limited to. The 19-inch on the Multistrada means fatter rubber, which I can instantly feel through the bars on these twisty roads. It's more agile than my 900 Rally Pro and reminds me a lot of the Tiger Sport 800. Wide bars provide leverage, and the beautifully constructed chassis and top-tier suspension really give confidence in the corners. Adrian spec'd the Sport Pack, which is actually just the forged wheels. They don't look dramatically different to stock, but they reduce unsprung mass. Now, I don't know what the standard wheels are like, of course, but certainly turn-in on this particular bike is fantastically sharp, and the semi-active suspension does a superb job of managing chassis movement, keeping the bike composed through corners and under braking. To be completely honest, Ducati have provided us with a masterclass here, and you can definitely kind of see, or rather feel, where all the money has gone. Braking is handled by top-spec Brembo styling calipers and large 330mm discs. Bite and power are immense but controllable with good feel at the lever. The 2025 model adds rear-to-front combined braking, subtly applying front brake when the rear is used. Now, I can't say I felt it really, even when deliberately testing it, but I have link brakes on my Tiger 2 and it's equally imperceptible. I'm sure it works, it's just so subtle that you can't really feel it, which is, I suppose, a good thing. Cornering ABS and lean sensitive traction are standard, and emergency braking also triggers hazard lights to warn following vehicles. How about electronics and tech? Well, Adrian began walking me through the menu, but there are so many features that we sort of gave up after a couple of minutes because there's just so much to take in. You can set everything from horsepower to engine braking, but Ducati's engineers know far more about the bike than I do, so I just left it in touring mode, which was more than adequate. The other modes are Sport, Urban, Enduro, and the new Wet mode. Enduro now caps power for better control on loose surfaces, which I didn't try, while Wet boosts safety parameters across the board. The bike also features wheelie control, though this can be dialed down, as Adrian demonstrated by popping a quick wheelie halfway round. You also get adaptive cruise control, blind spot detection, and new for 2025 is forward collision warning, which alerts riders of fast approaching obstacles. Though it doesn't include automatic braking, it provides useful early warning. That's about it. Adrian swears by these, but I didn't get the chance to test any of them in anger. The 6.5-inch TFT dash gets a cleaner layout and efficient mode to prioritise key info. Connectivity is excellent. Bluetooth pairing enables music, calls and navigation through the display. Backlit switchgear and intuitive controls round out the premium feel. In a nutshell, you're paying a hefty price for the bike, but it does come loaded with every conceivable gadget and feature. Too much? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this stuff. How about wind protection? Well, the easily adjustable screen deflects wind effectively for average height riders, but at 6'2" or 1.87 m, I did notice a little bit of turbulence at higher speeds. The fairing and tank provide good leg protection though, and taller screens and deflectors are available in the accessory catalogue. Now what about fuel economy and the dreaded engine heat? Well, Adrian says he's averaged 5.1 litres per 100 kilometres so far, which is pretty good considering how hard he rides the bike. He told me he used to average closer to 7 litres on his 2022 Multistrada, so the cylinder deactivation tweaks and Euro 5 Plus regulations would certainly seem to be having an impact. Anyway, with the 22 litre tank, you're looking at a range of about 400 kilometres, 250 miles, which I think is good enough for anyone. Base V4 or this V4S? Well, the base V4 lacks the semi-active suspension, radar systems and premium features like auto lowering, cornering lights and heated grips. It uses manual Marzocchi suspension and skips a few other electronic features like a simpler TFT dash. However, it's a not inconsiderable €4,000 cheaper than the S, and of course you're still getting the same engine, so it's worth thinking about if you're not into electronic gadgetry. The V4 is fine in isolation, of course, but we were joking with Adrian about being constantly thinking that you didn't go for the better model. He freely admitted that his V4S is a bit excessive, but at the same time, if they ever brought out a V6S, he'd probably want that. Off-road capability? Well, I'll be honest, I don't know. We didn't venture off-road, and I doubt many owners would. This doesn't mean the bike can't handle it. I would imagine it's perfectly capable of handling gravel tracks and hard-packed dirt, especially with the new Enduro mode. That said, A, it's not a Desert X, and B, it costs 30 grand, so realistically, who is going to take it off-road? How about alternatives? Well, I suppose the BMW S1000 XR is the most obvious competitor on paper. It rivals the Multistrada for road handling, but it does lack its comfort and radar tech. I also wasn't that impressed with the BMW's engine because you have to really wring its neck to extract the power. The R1300 GS that I also tried a couple of weeks ago has bags of torque and is fast, but it just doesn't excite me like this Ducati does. Triumph's Tiger 1200 is a strong contender, shaft drive, excellent comfort, and some tech parity, though it does lack radar and automatic suspension drop, and sits slightly below on outright performance. Then you've got KTM's 1290/1390 Super Adventure S. Matches the Ducati in power and thrills, but trails in tech integration. As I said in the intro, if I had the funds, I personally would go for this Multistrada simply because it's the bike that gives me the most grins. How about value? This is a difficult one. At €30,000 for this V4S with the sport, travel and radar packs. This is very much a premium motorcycle, but it's also superbly finished. Build quality, paint and materials are top notch. Reliability appears strong and long service intervals reinforce its touring credibility. Whether it's worth it depends on your appetite for high-end tech and performance. For those who want a bike to do it all, sport bike, tourer, occasional adventurer, the Multi makes a compelling case. It's expensive, but you're paying for excellence. I was convinced it was going to be overkill and that my cheapo Tiger 900 was just fine, but now I've ridden one and can feel where the money has been spent. I can kind of understand why it costs 30 grand. Now, what about the morality of spending 30 grand on a toy? And it is a toy, not a means of transport. It's lovely to have, but nobody needs this level of performance, comfort, braking and handling. But for what it's worth, here's my take on the moral side of this. And in an attempt to preempt some of the inevitable criticism in the comments, I reckon it's a bit like buying a 2,000 square metre house, when any human being can only ever occupy about 2 square metres at a time. What's the point? Who needs a 2,000 square metre house or a massive luxury yacht? Nobody, but they still keep building them and selling them. I say if you're fortunate enough to be able to afford a V4S and know how to ride it hard and get the most out of it, as Adrian does, he's a very experienced and skilled rider, then good on you. Incidentally, if you go crazy in the configurator and tick all the options, you'll be looking at a final bill closer to 50,000 euros. So it could be argued that Adrian has shown commendable restraint. As the French say, ce n'est cher que pour les pauvres. It's a fabulous bike to look at and to ride, and I'm just going to appreciate it for what it is. Anyway, thanks for submitting all your questions. If you want to join in, you just have to subscribe to the channel. But I've grouped them together by topic this week because many of you had very similar concerns. I've covered some of these questions in the main video, but I'll just quickly run through them again. Engine heat, always a concern with modern Ducatis, but it seems to be less of an issue on this 2025. Fuel consumption, 5.1 litres per 100 kilometres, 55 mpg UK, 46 US, which is significantly better than on previous iterations, so a range closer to 400 kilometres. Alternatives, I guess at this price point, potential buyers will be looking at the 1300 GS from BMW. Awesome engine, tons of torque, but for me the Ducati is more comfortable and much more exciting to ride. Handling and ride quality, in a word, it's exemplary. I didn't once get jarred or wish for more grip or more power. This bike has everything. Is it worth 30k? Yes, I think it is actually. Fully spec'd and 50k, no, but I can definitely feel where the extra 10 grand over my Triumph Tiger has gone. And finally, Pascal asked if the V2 is better. Well, I have, like you I imagine, seen reviews on here that say it's the better, more sensible choice, more logical choice, because it's so much more affordable. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to test one, so I can't really comment. If anyone has one in southern Portugal or knows where there's one available to test ride, please let me know. Anyway, the verdict. The 2025 Multistrada V4S is a masterclass in performance touring. It blends power, state-of-the-art tech, handling and comfort in a way few bikes I've ever ridden can, and damn, I want one. Anyway, having published at least one video a week for the last 6 months, I'm ready for a bit of a break now, so I thought it was fitting to end with an Uber bike like this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.